What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be going through the best budget goalkeepers on Sorare. Now, I have found about 20 consistent starters for under £200 that are really good, especially for those cap modes. Okay, guys, so yeah, I have found about 20 goalkeepers for under £200 that are really good budget options, especially if you're someone that is just moving up into the rare cap mode. These are absolutely perfect. The filters that I've used, basically looking for any goalkeeper in Champion Europe, Challenge Europe, or Second Div Europe with a recent floor price of under £200. I've gone through and filtered through all of the keepers that are injured, suspended, all that sort of stuff, and I found about 20 options that are probably your best bets moving forwards. Okay, so let's kick things off with Deanstanovich, who plays for Rheindorf Altasch in the Austrian Bundesliga. He's someone that overall has had some really nice scores, gives you some nice peak scores and overall quite a safe floor. You can see that there aren't really, well, apart from one score, any scores below 40, which is perfect for those cap modes. If we get rid of all of the DMPs here, see that he's averaging 61.3, which is great, with 16.3 AA, means that he's facing a lot of shots. In terms of his prices, about £10 in limited and £166 is his floor in rare. The only downside with him is that with the Austrian League, it doesn't start till the 10th of February. You have 5 games and then the league will then split. And then I believe you get another 5/6 games after that. So probably about 10 games of utility with him left. In terms of the table, they are currently sat third bottom. So there is that slight risk of relegation. But hopefully when they get put into this bottom tier when the league splits, they'll have some easier fixtures, pick up some more points, and then they can then hopefully stay clear of Tyrol and Lustenau. The good thing is that Lustenau this season are absolutely terrible, so they're basically guaranteed to go down, I think, and it will probably be out of some of these bottom teams here. But yeah, overall, hopefully they can stay safe. And I mean, based on his scores, he scores really well. Lots of dark green scores, and yeah, his price range, especially in limited as well, I think he's a really good price. Next up, we have Francois Joseph Solaro, who plays for Ajaccio in the French League 2. He is currently £8 in limited and £120 in rare, so very cheap. The reason for that is that he has recently won the starting job. Before here, he was sat on the bench and there was a different keeper. From my research, they basically swap keepers. This guy has come in, done okay by the looks of these scores. And yeah, hopefully moving forward he can keep that starting job. That is why his price is a little bit lower. There is that added risk there that maybe the other keeper comes back in, but overall, since he has been starting, been scoring very well. A couple of bad scores back here, but that was when they were in the first French league. If you change that to French League 2, there we go. He's averaging 51, which is fine for cap mode, especially cap 240. And yeah, overall, just quite a solid option. A little bit of jeopardy there, but for this sort of price range, it's probably a risk worth taking. They are currently sat 7th in the table. They don't really let in that many goals, only 17 goals conceded. And obviously, there's no risk of relegation here. They could perhaps push up to these playoff spots. However, for this sort of keeper, you probably want them to actually stay in the second div, just because he's going to get better scores in there rather than going up to the French League 1. Okay, next up we have Hendrik, another Austrian Bundesliga keeper, someone that I own personally that plays for Wolfsberger. He's currently £7.59 in limited and £163 in rare. Similarly to the other Austrian Bundesliga keepers, obviously no fixtures till the 10th and then the league splits. He's someone that scores very well. Wolfsberger have been playing quite well recently, and the good thing with them is that you can partner him with Baumgartner, who's a really good centre-back. Yeah, some very nice scores out of the last 33 games, 11 clean sheets, 1 penalty save, so a clean sheet every 3 games. 10.7 AA, which is quite nice for a goalkeeper as well. And just overall for his price range, quite a solid option. Now, Wolfsberger are right on the verge of that split. They are currently sat 7th, so currently in that bottom half. There's a little bit of jeopardy with this, because if they move up slightly and get into that 5th, 6th spot, obviously they're going to then be playing some of the better teams when the league splits. They'll have Salzburg and Sturm Graz. So yeah, that will be a little bit more tricky for them. However, if they stay 7th, they'll have a really nice run of fixtures. So yeah, probably a little bit of luck here with where they actually finish. Hopefully they finish in that bottom tier, and then yeah, they'll have some really nice games, which would be great for Bomben scores. And up next in the Bundesliga 2, we have Dominick, who plays for Magdeburg. £11.65 in limited and £183 in rare. Overall, a fairly good scorer, 15.3 AA, which is quite nice for a goalkeeper. If we take out the games that he hasn't started, averaging 50.8 in the last year, 31 games, 6 clean sheets. The good thing with him is that he gives you quite a safe floor. There's only 4 scores there that are a little bit stinky. The rest are in that sort of mid-range. You can see here a large portion of his scores in that 40 to 60 range, and then a few scores with some upside. Magdeburg are currently sat 13th in the table, just above the relegation zone. There is only 3 points between them and Hansa. The good thing this season is that it looks like Osnabrück are a very, very bad side and only on 9 points. So hopefully that obviously takes up one of the relegation spots. Just keep an eye on them in terms of where they are in the table. Obviously, the league is very, very close. Only 3 points from then to Hansa, but then, for instance, Hanover are only 4 points ahead. So if they hit a good run of fixtures, hopefully they can move up the table and just decrease that risk of relegation. Next up, we have our first older keeper with Regis, who is 37 years of age and plays for Amiens or Amiens in French League 2. Currently £10 in limited and £165 in rare. His price is generally a little bit lower, just down to his age, but overall he's a very consistent scorer. He doesn't really give you as much upside as some of the other keepers, but lots of scores in that 40 to 50 range, and just overall quite a solid option. 39 games played in the last year with 10 clean sheets. And just, yeah, overall a very, very safe starter. As you can see, they are currently sat perfectly in mid-table in that 12th position. Shouldn't really be any risk of going down here, but probably no chance of going up into the French league, which is kind of ideal for this sort of keeper. You're hoping that he stays in this sort of mid-table range, no risk of going down, no risk of going up into a harder league. In terms of their stats, 20 goals conceded, which is about average, really. And overall, he's just a nice, solid keeper, especially for something like Cap 240. Our next second div keeper is Ron Robert Zela, who plays for Hanover. Currently 34 years of age, £8 in limited and £190 in rare. You can see from his scores here, quite typical cap mode keeper. Has a little bit more fluctuation in terms of some lower scores and higher scores. Some keepers are a little bit more consistent. For instance, the last keeper, Regis Gertner, had a lot more scores in that sort of 40 to 60 range, whereas Zela is a little bit up and down, some more scores in those orange and red areas, but a little bit more upside. Overall, though, for his price and also for the team that he plays for, I believe in terms of the table, Hanover, yeah, they're 8th. So they're one of the better sides in the leagues. If they hit a decent run of form, hopefully he can get back to hitting some of these darker green scores rather than these oranges and reds. Continuing with the Bundesliga 2 theme, our next keeper is Marcus Kolke, or Kolk, who plays for Hansa Rostock. He did get a red card in the last game, so is suspended, so maybe you can get him a little bit cheaper due to that. Currently, his price is £6.89 in limited, and in rare is £159. Now, in terms of the table, Hansa are currently sat third bottom. It's obviously not where you want your starting goalkeeper to actually be. However, for his price, if you can get him cheap enough, running that risk of relegation does actually become worth it. In terms of his scores, not actually too bad for a keeper that is obviously down the bottom there. If you have a look at all the games that he's played, averaging 45.3 with 8.7 AA, 34 games played in the last year with 8 clean sheets and 1 penalty save. Hansa, a little bit worse when they're playing at home. Probably down to the fact that when they're not at home, he's facing more shots, so his AA goes up a little bit higher. But yeah, overall, not one of the best teams in the league. But like I mentioned, if you can get him cheap enough, it's probably worthwhile doing. Obviously, playing him in something like Cap 240, his L15 is only 42. If you hit 3-4 thresholds with him, he's basically paid for himself anyway. And then you can then perhaps sell him and then use the capital from that to then purchase a better keeper. Okay, our first Croatian League keeper, we have Ivan Susic, who plays for Slaven Koprivnica. That's how you say it. £7 in limited and £143 in rare. The Croatian League is back in game week 445, so slightly prior to the Austrian Bundesliga. You get a couple of extra games a little bit earlier. In terms of his scores, I believe in the last game he was suspended due to this booking here. But overall, your sort of typical cat mode keeper, really. Not a lot of upside, but quite a safe middle ground. Most of his scores in that 40 to 50 range. He's probably one of the more sort of budget option keepers in this list overall, coming in at, about £140. And in terms of the table, they are, Slaven Koprivnica, this team here. They are third bottom. And yeah, it looks like Rudez are by far the worst team in the table, only on 4 points. I'm not sure how the relegation works here with a small league, but I believe it's the bottom 2 spots. So hopefully they can stay out of trouble here. But yeah, with a lot of these keepers, the reason that they're a little bit cheaper, they normally have a issue with either relegation or age or a poor run of form, or perhaps they've only recently won the starting job. So yeah, just bear that in mind when it comes to these purchases. There always is a little bit of a downside. But yeah, if you can win a few thresholds with them in Cap 240, you can obviously yield some of that money back and then perhaps trade up into a better keeper, like I mentioned with the Hansa Rostock keeper as well. Okay, our next keeper is Ralph Farman, who is 35 years of age, plays for Schalke in Bundesliga 2, and has a contract till 2025. He is currently £6.77 in limited and £97 in rare. Now, he's someone that was out injured for a long time. Came back into the squad here, I believe had a little knock here or was ill, and then has then come back into the starting job. His price is actually very, very good, especially if he's going to be the starting keeper moving forwards for Schalke. In terms of the league table, they are currently sat 14th. So similarly to the Hansa keeper and the Majba keeper in that bottom section of the table, but hopefully they can start to actually push on and move up rather than back towards the relegation zone. You can see from their last 3 games, a couple of wins and a good draw here as well. He's been actually scoring quite nicely. If you just have a look at all of his scores when he actually starts, 47.3 and 10.4 on his AA, 19 games played and 7 clean sheets. Obviously, with these older keepers, there is a risk of injury like he has had previously. And yeah, obviously there's a little bit of risk there, but for someone that has a contract till 2025, I assume he's in Schalke's plans moving forwards, and obviously has a very, very nice L15 of 35, which is perfect for all of the cap modes. Next up, we have Adam Stejskal, who is our first U23 option on this list. He plays for Tyrol in the Austrian Bundesliga. He is 21 years of age, U23 until 2026, currently £8.83 in limited, and £154 in rare. And yeah, someone that has obviously recently got the starting job here. He was at Salzburg and then has moved over to Tyrol. I'm not sure if that's on loan or permanent transfer, but just have a little look at that. If he is only on loan at Tyrol, that would be quite good because they are currently sat second bottom, 5 points off Altash. Obviously, when the split happens, they'll have some easier fixtures. But yeah, if he is only on loan, that would be quite handy, because if he can go back to Salzburg, perhaps challenge for the starting job, or get a loan somewhere else, that helps his long-term prospects. Overall, quite a solid scorer, nothing too special. Your typical sort of cap 240 keeper, really. Never going to score great, but never going to kill your lineup. Obviously, playing for one of the worst teams in Austria isn't ideal. They're going to lose most of their games, but if you do get these 47, 56, 47, 53 scores, that is quite handy for cap 240, and with a nice low L15 of 43, that really does help out, and you can then put in some bigger hitters into that cap 240 team. Our next goalkeeper is Martinez, who plays for FC Cartagena in the Spanish Second League. He's currently £8.29 in limited and £148 in rare. The biggest problem with him is that I believe they are sat bottom. Yeah, they are here. However, if you have a look at their recent games, they did draw 3, win 2, and then lost their last games. They've been on a decent run of form, I should say. In terms of his scores, typical cap 240 keeper once again. A few stinky scores down here, but a few half decent ones which can help out your cap 240 team. Has a nice low L15, which is great. And yeah, I mean, with lots of these keepers, as long as you can start to actually yield some money back from them. One more here against Huesca, and then they're back mid-January in 4-4-1. And they also play very late on into early summer as well, which is very, very nice. There's plenty of games here for you to actually yield back what you paid for him, even if there is that risk of obviously them getting relegated. Okay, up next we have Eloy Room, and if you've ever played any competitions in the MLS, you'll know that he transferred over from Columbus Crew to Vitesse this summer. He is 34 years of age and has a contract till 2025. Limited price is £6.53 and rare price £125 with an L15 of 46. The biggest issue with him is that Vitesse are currently bottom. They are, 3 points off RKC and 4 points off Heracles. They've let in 37 goals this season, which isn't great. However, when you look at his scores, some very, very decent scores here for a keeper playing for the worst team. Gets lots of AA due to the amount of saves that he's making, 13.4 in total. Had a bad couple of games here. Saying that, he had the error here, but saved the penalty. But yeah, another error which led to the goal here in the 5-0 loss to Almere City. You can see from scrolling down here, lots of bad games for them. They don't look like a great team. And one of the issues with the Dutch league is there's no second div currently covered on Sorare. So you would hope that a few things happen. Either they have an uptick in form, get themselves out of trouble, and they're safe for next season. Or even if they do go down, perhaps someone else signs him from a different league and he gets a good transfer. Likewise, as I mentioned with the other keepers, as long as you're able to put him into a decent cap 240 team and yield back what you spent overall, you can basically pay off what you've paid for him, and then perhaps, move him on for a better option, or just yield enough from cap 240 that it doesn't really matter either way. Our next keeper is Nicholas Schmidt, who plays in the Austrian Bundesliga for BWL. He is 26 years of age, L15 of 44, which is very, very nice. £6.69 in limited and £148 in rare. He's actually someone that gives you quite a lot of good upside, however, does have these bad scores down here, which is quite good for cap modes because it brings his cap down. 17 games played, 5 clean sheets, and 1 penalty save. In terms of the table, they are currently 9th out of 12. They are quite clear of both Tyrol and Lustenau. I wouldn't expect them to have any sort of issues with going down, really. They should be in this bottom tier when the league splits as well. And in terms of their fixtures coming up, they have Altash, Klagenfurt, Austria, Vienna, and Lustenau, which are 4 quite good games. 1 bad game against Salzburg. After this Lustenau game, they should have a lot more easier fixtures moving forwards. Next up, we have Oliver Zelena, who plays for Rarazden in the Croatian League. He is 30 years of age, L15 to 51, £8.57 in limited, and £193 in rare. In terms of the table, they are currently sat 7th. They shouldn't really have any issues with going down here. There's a few teams at the bottom which I believe are worse teams, and they should be somewhere around this sort of mid-table. In terms of his scoring, actually scores very, very well. He is a little bit more expensive, especially in the rare section here, but that is down to the fact that he gives you a lot of upside, and they can hit a decent run of form. 36 games played with 12 clean sheets and 1 penalty save, so basically a clean sheet every 3 games. And yeah, like I was saying, gives you quite a bit of upside, which is very, very nice with minimal downside. The occasional low score, but that's the same with most keepers. And yeah, just overall a really, really solid option in terms of their fixtures. They come back a little bit sooner than most of the other leagues, and yeah, just overall a nice solid goalkeeper. Next up we have Igel Aken, who plays for CSK Moscow in the Russian league. He's 37 years of age with an L15 of 47. Limited price is currently £10, and his rare price currently £84. The biggest issue with him is that the Russian league isn't back to the 3rd of the 3rd, so you've got basically 3 months to actually wait. But if you can get his rare card, for instance, on a auction and get him much cheaper, it's probably quite a good long-term investment. In terms of the table, they are currently sat 4th. The league table is quite close, only 5 points between them and Zela in 2nd. So there is the potential of them moving up into the European spots, which is obviously good for him in terms of fixtures. Obviously, with him and his price is a little bit lower due to the fixtures and also his age. Maybe he hangs up his boots in the summer, but if not, he's still a very, very good price, and there's still plenty of fixtures here for you to actually yield back some of what you've paid for him. And his scores are what you would expect for a keeper of this sort of price range. When they keep a clean sheet, he's basically getting you anywhere from 60 to 70. He lacks a little bit of that upside, but there's only really 3 scores here which are bad, that 24, 11 and 21. A just good solid cap 240 keeper, but yeah, obviously you can't use him for a few months, so just bear that in mind when you are purchasing him. Philipp Menzel is our next keeper. He is 25 years of age, plays for Austria Klagenfurt in the Austrian Bundesliga, contract till June 2024, and L15 of 45, which is great for cap modes. His limited is currently £6.18, and his rare is £167. You can see from his scores, similarly to a lot of these keepers, they lack the upside, but a lot of scores in that 60 to 70 range, a few higher scores back here as well. The big thing with him is that you are going to get the occasional red score, but with these keepers at this sort of price range, it's kind of expected, really. In terms of the league table, they are currently sat 5th, which is quite good in terms of the prospects of obviously not going down. However, if they do finish in 5th after the next 5 games, they are going to be in that top bundle of teams there, which means they are going to have to play Salzburg and Sturm and have a few more difficult fixtures. So yeah, just be wary of that. They do have some nice fixtures here with Lustenau, Linz and Rapid. However, they do have Lask and Salzburg, and they may have some more difficult games coming up with that split. Next is Dominick, who once again plays in the Austrian Bundesliga for Austria Lustenau. He is 29 years of age and L15 of 37, which is great. His limited is £2.83 and his rare is currently £90. The reason that he is so cheap is purely because Lustenau are bottom and quite clearly bottom on 3 points. With him, I would say that the reason you're buying him is because you're going to get 10/11 games out of him easily. His L15 is low, which means you can put him into a cap 240 with some bigger hitters. And at £90 with 2 thresholds, he's basically paid for. So you can literally yield him back in 2 weeks. In terms of his scores, not too bad for a team that is bottom. However, this little run of fixtures here hasn't been great for them. You can see they've only drawn, what's that, one in the last like 15 games. They do let in quite a few goals. However, if this L15 is obviously nice and low, pair him with some big hitters. If you get a score like here where he hits 55 or 31 or 42, it doesn't really kill you off too much. And yeah, hopefully you can win a few thresholds, sell him, and then use that to then buy a better goalkeeper. But overall, it's just a really cheap option, which is sometimes useful when you're obviously building those cap 240 teams. Okay, nearly there. Our second to last keeper is Ali Viral, who is 33 years of age, plays for Sivasspor in the Turkish league, under contract till June 2024. £8.65 in limited and £182 in rare with an L15 of 43. In terms of the table, they are comfortably sat 12th. See that they have won 4 games, drawn 6 and lost 5. And yeah, there shouldn't really be any fears of them going down here. So it should be a nice, safe purchase moving forwards. And in terms of his scores, doesn't really have that upside. No scores above 80. However, that there are 15 scores here in that 40 to 60 range. So nice and safe, especially for those cap 240 game modes. 8.5 AA, which is fine. And just an overall nice side option with a nice low L15. And last up, we have David Marshall, who plays for Hibs in the SPFL. 38 years of age, £14 in limited and £194 in rare. I believe his price is a little bit higher currently because, one, he's been on quite a good run of form, but also Hibs play in the midweek as well. In terms of his scores, especially the last 15 games, been scoring very, very well. This coincides with Hibs getting a new manager. But yeah, been very, very solid recently, which has seen his price increase. The only real risk with him is that obviously at the end of the season, he stops playing. 38 years of age, even for a goalkeeper, is quite old. However, with the Scottish League, you get some nice fixtures. Hibs obviously one of the better teams, and there is also a split in the table as well. As you can see, they are currently sat 6th. Ideally, you probably want them to drop down to the 7th, 8th spot, just because when that league splits, you then want him playing against those weaker teams. However, from his scores, you can see that Hibs are capable of keeping clean sheets against anyone. And yeah, just overall a really nice side option that has been scoring well, especially with these past L15 scores. You could probably put him into a cap 270 team, which is unlike some of the other options. Okay, guys, that is going to be the end of today's video. We have gone through about 20 goalkeepers there, which should give you plenty of options, especially for those cap 240 game modes. If you do have any questions about any of those keepers that I have talked through, or you think that I have missed someone out, please let me know in the comments down below. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.